looking for British Columbia or Vancouver-based counsel on, we're always happy to help or help you find a lawyer in this jurisdiction if you're looking for that. Quick rundown of what we're going to be looking at today. So when I was prepping for this presentation, it was a little bit challenging because I've never really presented on sort of a piece of software before. I've usually present on, I don't know, a point of like substantive law or sort of high level practice management. So this is my first time presenting on just a specific app. So I'm trying, I'm definitely looking forward to some feedback on what people thought the value they got out of this is at the end. But I'm hoping that at the end of this presentation that you will understand what Asana does and the fact that it's basically just a spreadsheet with a nice UI and sort of a social media type layer to it. And I did want to focus on how to get started. So what I'm going to be showing you is a lot of kind of built out systems through a few live demos and screenshots and things. But I am going to be flagging the low hanging fruit and how to kind of, if I was to go back to day one of starting with Asana, what I would do and where I would start. And then generally, the reason I use Asana, the core reason we use any software at our firm is to try to improve either our bottom line or our lives generally by trying to reduce the clutter in our brain and be able to spend more time on the stuff that matters. And feel free to, Brian, if you could help me, just stop me if there's questions or comments or whatever, that's totally fine. I'm just not always great at monitoring for questions while I'm talking. I wanted to try to balance giving intro to the basics and showing what a built out system looks like, because there's no sugarcoating it. The learning curve for Asana, and I think for any task management platform, learning curve and the adoption curve are very, very, very steep. It takes a lot of effort to get people onto this system. I mean, my own business partner, Ravneet, took 2.5 years before he was sort of fully embracing Asana, and now he is an Asana sort of evangelist at the firm, similar to me. So it is something where, it's not necessarily easy to do, but I think that the juice is worth the squeeze, as they say. What not to expect today. So I want to make it clear, I don't work for Asana. I don't earn any commissions. I can't sell you the product. I don't have like a lead to sales or anything. I used to be part of the Asana Ambassador program, which I believe they've shut down now, where I could have earned a commission, but I never did pursue that. I'm not going to be talking about pricing and license tiers and that kind of nitty gritty kind of like, this isn't a demo to try to get you to buy Asana. This is my way of giving back to the community, because I don't, I do real estate law. There's not many low income people that need a real estate lawyer. I don't really have the opportunity to do pro bono work. So I'm trying to make things easier for other lawyers and maybe give back in that way. So the only thing I'll say about pricing is that I have a legacy Enterprise Plus subscription. It costs, I think the last bill I paid was about $5,100 US for a year subscription. I've been on that pricing for 4 years. So if you're interested in pricing and all of that, I can definitely connect you with people who can discuss that, or you can reach out to the sales team, but that is not what we're going to be talking about today. So Asana is, every lawyer uses some kind of task management platform, whether they know it or not. You know, your task management platform might be a series of sticky notes around your monitor. It might be little red flags in your Outlook inbox. It might be your Outlook to-do list. It's usually an Excel spreadsheet or Google Sheet or series of Google Sheets. And if you look at, you know, I can zoom in on some of these. If you look at the names of these are projects in Asana. These will look very similar to what you may categorize your tasks list as. You know, you may have trust accounting, onboarding, intake, client, firm management, these kinds of things. Asana is a platform that can integrate, you know, you can upload a CSV file or an Excel file right to Asana, and it will let you sort of populate fields directly from that. You can sync Google Sheets and Trello, and like there's a million different connections through Zapier and all of that. So when we're going through this presentation, just remember that Asana fundamentally is, it is fundamentally a spreadsheet with a nice UI, and it is meant to break things down into projects that manage, you know, on the left side here, we have our clients. This is synced straight from Clio. So it links, it puts it in a team. Teams are, you know, it's not conceptually that complicated. A team is like your practice area or your group in the firm administration, billing, marketing, what have you. And then within each practice area, you have individual client matters. And you can see here, we have our numbering system and the, you know, conveyancing. We've got leases, we've got some litigation files, purchases, sales. So, and I'll show you in a live demo in a few minutes, but instead of, you know, having an Excel spreadsheet with all of your active matters and the next date that you need to do something, Asana gives you that same data, the same way of visualizing it, but also a bunch of other ways of tracking it and not having to manually update things. So if you're already using some kind of spreadsheet-based system, you are very well set up to start using Asana. It would be much more challenging if you are completely paper-based, or if you're using like Word lists or something like that. Asana can export and import really, really easily in spreadsheet form. But you can see here a good sense of how we organize at a high level. And I will go through the firm management and some of these other major projects. This is, okay, and I'm gonna have to bounce out of Canva into my browser in a minute here, but here is a, I don't know if I never thought I would feel so old making Simpsons references here, but as you can see, I've set up a dummy file for the purchase of 744 Evergreen Terrace, which is the home of Ned Flanders. So this is Homer buying out Ned's house because he's got to sell. Tough times at the leftorium, I suppose. And what we have here is the end state of what I would say is a fully built out Asana project with tasks and everything. So I'll go through the live example, but so you can see what we're going to be looking at here is these tasks were created through an automation that we built out through Zapier. The only thing, we create the closing day task, we tag it, we date it for closing day, and which is this one right here. And then all these tasks above and below it are automatically created relative to that closing date and assigned to the person who is responsible for doing it. So you can see here, Virgie is our conveyancer. Havena here is, or was our receptionist at the time when we did this example. Deborah is a paralegal of ours. And on the right-hand side here with the tags, we use a DEFCON 1 through 5, 1 being the most like drop what you're doing, get this done, and 5 being this is kind of optional system. So we also categorize it based on urgency and level of importance so that people can see if they only have time to do one thing and they're both due at the same time, which one to do first. So this will seem familiar, I think, to many lawyers because we all know that certain tasks take priority over other tasks, and we all delegate tasks to other people and have tasks delegated back to us or assigned back to us for review. Asana just facilitates that all in one system rather than having to deal with like a billion emails and all of that. So let me get to an example here. So this is the dummy project that I set up in my actual Asana. I had to be sort of careful about how I share this stuff because obviously I have a lot of privileged legal information hanging out in this Asana, but this is all just dummy information. When, this looks very much like a spreadsheet. We've got rows and columns. We've just got some extra headings. What's really neat about Asana is that it allows you, I know some lawyers, especially litigators, they love a calendar. They want to see everything calendar based. You can display the same information on a calendar and on a, I don't like Kanban boards particularly myself, but you can absolutely use a Kanban board style, or if you're for some reason into Gantt charts, you can do it like that as well. But it's useful because this is really useful because it's, different people learn in different ways. Different people like to see or data and tasks organized in a different way. And even though this is just one project, if you have 20 closings and you group them all, you can see a calendar that unifies all of your upcoming closings and all of those tasks and sets them up so you can on each day, which helps you start to determine, lawyers are always asking each other, what's your capacity? Do you have capacity to take this on? The calendar view, when you have a fully built out Asana that has all of your tasks in it, and I can't show you my entire task list because it has too much privileged info in it, but when you can see that, it allows you to give an answer to, do you have capacity that is not just your gut feeling and like whether you've had lunch yet or not, whether you're in a good mood. It lets you give a nuanced explanation and understanding of your capacity and also the capacity of others, because you can see, if you set up the permissions correctly, you can see the task list of your paralegal, of your assistant, and you can see, you look at the calendar and you go, wow, this person has a bunch of tasks this week, but not much coming up next week. So that is, I think, what really sort of initially got me hooked on this idea here. I'm going to just jump right into the next live demo instead of going through the screenshot. So this is the firm management project that we have, and I've sort of had to strip out some of it for privilege reasons, but this is our oldest and most used project. You can see some of these things date back to 2022. If we go into, I'll give you an example of how we use this firm management project, right? Some of these things they live, I mean, wow, like look at this one. This one was created in 2021. This was some idea that my business partner had that this is like, I'm going to show you a couple of different examples of Asana about how it works, and then also about how sometimes it, not that it doesn't work, but you can see here, this is a task, this is an idea that somebody came up with that they put in the Asana firm management project that never got, that had the due date removed. And so this is something that probably happens to everybody, where you come up with an idea, you jot it down on a Post-it note somewhere, and then you throw it out, or the cleaning people come and they throw it out, and it gets tossed away forever and you have no record of it. Asana lets you sort of dump information into it, and it will just have it. You can do a review and you can say, okay, well, this is an idea we have. Maybe we'll implement it later. Maybe we won't. You know, this is something we should probably clean up and get rid of. But it's one system that can handle both the most mundane, half-baked ideas that never go anywhere, and then also the most important things, which are like making sure our credit card bills get paid, making sure the mail gets checked. All of these things are of different levels of importance, different levels of urgency, but Asana is able to accommodate all of them without needing to manage different, you train people once on it, and they just know what they're able to run with this. Again, we're able to, if you're somebody who wants to see this in calendar format, so you know when, you know, firm management, obviously it's mostly the administrative staff. So you can see here, next Wednesday, October 15th, is probably a good day to add some extra admin tasks to the admin plate, because you can see there's just not that many things to do.
Eli, quick question.
Yeah.
Could you speak to how you manage recurring tasks versus one-time tasks in this project? Because it seems like some are kind of one-time bigger projects, and then some are ones that have to be repeated on like a weekly or monthly basis.
Yeah, sure. So when you have a recurring task, so this is one where I want to, you know, everybody's Asana profile, I'll get into this a little bit later, but basically everybody has a profile in Asana that lets them, it's similar to Slack. So in our office, we have our sort of work habits and how to reach me if I'm offline, that kind of stuff. But we've got, with the recurring dates, recurring tasks in Asana, it will let you define how you want it to repeat. So you can have it repeat, you know, daily, monthly, yearly. You can have it repeat periodically, which is kind of nice, which is after you complete it, you can have it repeat. So it's not based on an actual, it won't say, okay, 30 days after X date. It will be whenever you complete it, it makes a task for 2 weeks later. So Asana is really useful also for sort of habit building type things. Like I have like my wedding anniversary, I have all of that as recurring tasks in Asana, because things don't exist in my life without Asana. So when you create these recurring tasks, it will only create it for the next task. It won't create, like, let's say if you're trying to do something every 2 weeks, it will not create 20 tasks at 2-week intervals. It will create one task, and then when you mark that task done, it will create the next task at the 2-week interval, which also means if you have something that's due in August that you've let go overdue and it recurs monthly, when you click done, it will make it for September. And then you click done, it'll make it for October. So it doesn't just sort of skip to the next, to the most current date. And then those are for tasks that we need to keep doing at a specific interval, right? Like this one I have every 4 months on the 7th day of the month, right? This one I have every 3 months on the 28th day of the month, right? It just depends on the importance of the item. And then this is, like when our printer lease expires. So it expires, and that's like a bring forward thing. So that, that doesn't need to recur. Yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Excellent. Okay, so if I've learned something from my implementation and management of Asana at the firm, it's that you're never going to have 100% usage and compliance. Like people, even like one of our paralegals who loves using Asana talks about it all the time. Like she still uses a handwritten to-do list in a notebook for her sort of main priorities for the day. So it's about, in my mind, it's about getting the sort of mission critical compliance, deadline management, limitation dates, undertakings, the stuff that helps me sleep at night as the person whose name is on the door. That is what Asana is most useful for. So I try to start with the things that help me sleep at night, and then you use it and you set the example so that people trust Asana more than their own memory, more than their own sort of manually updated to-do list. But I found that it's taken way longer than I thought it would ever take. And it was, we started right when the firm was starting. I think that if you have like an established firm with lots of people at it, I would start with the admin staff, and I would start with new hires, and I would try to sort of inculcate them into the Asana system right from day one, because that has really helped us. We have our onboarding for new employees starting in Asana, and that starts including the planning for new hires. So this is an example of how we sort of iterate a process through Asana. Is we have this template for when we hire a new employee. Everybody, when you're hiring a new employee, you have a checklist. Sometimes it'll just be like a mental thing that you do, but Asana lets you sort of brain dump it into constituent parts, right? Ordering keys, ordering their desk, setting up their, getting them in the employee directory, all of this stuff, getting them two-factor authentication on 100,000 things. Setting it up like this creates a record for compliance. It creates a record, if something goes wrong with the training, we can look back and we can say, hey, how come this didn't get done? How come this did get done? This task had a problem. What should we do about it next time? You can see here, we've got, this is where I wanted to sort of introduce sort of the social media layer of Asana, is that, let's say you're trying to set up a two-factor authentication for a bank account for an employee on their first day. That can really frustrate people when they're being hired, right? If you're sitting there, you can't get logged into stuff, it's really deflating. So we try to set people up on two-factor authentication before, we noticed that problem. We added that to the Asana onboarding project to do on the first day, and we assign it to a paralegal to sort of make sure that that gets done without frustrating the new employee. And instead of this being a bunch of emails back and forth or Teams messages and combination of that, we have it all in one clean list where, you can see Havena, or the person that was training Elena, tagged me, told me the problem. I reinitiated the 2FA and then done. And I didn't have to ask or follow up or anything. If I wanted to know the status of this, I just checked in Asana. We have another one. We have all of these, up until the first day, the first week, the end of the first 3 months. And this project, the new employee onboarding project, started with maybe 5 tasks. Like my closing checklist for real estate charges started with maybe 3 or 4 tasks. It doesn't have to start with everything you could possibly do. If you start with just a couple, you'll notice how quickly the other tasks start making sense to start adding, and how you can start organizing the information in whatever way you want it. But there's, I think a lot of lawyers want to have the system fully built and they want to have everything in there right away. But I would encourage you to be okay with having half of what you need in there for the first time that you use it. And then, like, this is something where we've onboarded, a dozen staff, and we've iterated through this project, and we update the template every time we go through it. Like, I think we have somewhere in here, yeah, we have, maybe we don't, but oh yeah, update the how-to guide as problems are noted. So this is, and what to check to ensure a smooth onboarding. So this is where we have in our Asana tasks reminders to reflect on what we could have done better. And then the information is there. We update the project, and if it's a year before we have to onboard a new person, all the tasks are there. This is our institutional knowledge. I think this is probably my favorite thing in our Asana. Law Society of BC, LSBC, list of things we have done to cover our butts. I mean, if there's one thing we have to do as a lawyer, it's make sure we maintain our license to practice law. So I think anybody, if pressed, it's like, well, what CLE have you done? When was the last time you updated your knowledge of the rules of trust accounting? All of that. We have a record going back years, including what our recurring tasks are, as a reminder to ourselves of all of the things that we do to protect ourselves, our clients, and our staff, our trust funds, all of that, and to comply with Law Society regulations. And then I have a recurring task for myself every year to update this with things that we've done to make our compliance regime better. Or to just generally comply with new rules or what have you. And this is something where, we've got 5 lawyers. You never know when somebody's going to complain to the Law Society for a good reason or not. But this is just a living document that we're able to, it's so much easier to do this rather than having a Word document, because you have a Word document list, that's great. But here I can go in and I can click on each task, and I can see, okay, well, this is what the task was. And then we had these subtasks, and I can see from the breadcrumbs who did it and on what day, and all of this information. And, I can only get into so much detail in a 30-45 minute presentation, but this is the amount of sort of retracing your steps if something goes wrong on a file, or if you need to prove that you did or did not do something. It's very, like, I can see every single time that I've made an update to this list. It even does, Asana essentially does a track changes of what you changed every time you update the description. And as far as I know, it retains this data indefinitely. So if things go wrong in your practice, it's very valuable to be able to retrace your steps. And if you have all of your steps in Asana, that's pretty easy. Just a couple things to wrap up here. So another great way I found to make Asana more palatable to people and make them want to use it is make it more fun for people. Use it for things that aren't just boring work stuff. So for instance, we have everybody's birthday and employment anniversary as a task. This is good for one, because I mean, imagine if you had an Outlook invite for every single person's birthday, right? Like that would really clutter up people's calendars, and it would kind of like make birthdays seem annoying. But this is something where it's assigned to one person who just announces the birthday in the Teams chat or announces the employment anniversary. And the employment anniversary is also really good because it forces us as managers to think about reviews, bonuses, changes to compensation, these kinds of things. Everybody knows their employees' start dates, but it's very beneficial, I've found, to have a reminder to yourself of those, because those can often get forgotten. Even if you have a note of it somewhere, unless it's going to pop up for you, you won't remember it. Okay. Last live example. I don't know about you, but I hate email, and I wish email would die, and I don't know why it's still a thing. But at Eli Zbar LLP, we have a no internal emails policy, which means that unless you have a really, really good reason, or it's an email out to a client and CCing someone, we don't email each other internally. If it's an urgent thing, we'll call or send a Teams message. But other than that, we talk and collaborate and get things done in an Asana task. And this is a good example that wasn't client related that I was able to show you. So we wanted to revamp our engagement letter for purchase conveyances and sellers and refinances. So we set out all of these different tasks, and you can see we're going, myself and my paralegal Deborah are going back and forth, over the course of a few weeks. She's seeking my feedback on a new task. And you can see here, like we use JotForm for our intake. You can post attachments, you can post screenshots, you can sort of have, like, this looks very much like any other social media platform. You can, I'll just show you, you use @ to tag people or to tag projects. You can use, this is just like Slack, you can use / to like rich formatting, emojis, all of that. There's the ability, like we have it integrated with SharePoint, so you can add a SharePoint link and it will show like the document name instead of just showing the big long link. This is this was a project that had many different constituent parts, many comments. It's going back, like we were going back to 2023, 2024 on some of these. Just imagine how many emails it would have taken between you and your paralegal. Oh, attached is the new version of the engagement letter, and then you send back a red line and all of this. We eliminated all of that and all of those emails and everything, and it allows us to put stuff on the back burner for 6 weeks because some trial has come up, and then come right back to this and have all the information set out for us and be able to pick it up without having to read a million emails or look through our inbox or, go, oh, I had that written down somewhere, but I don't know where it is. Yeah, and the final thing I'll leave you with is that I say to people all the time, if it's not in Asana, it doesn't exist. I tell my staff, if I'm out on, if I'm not by my keyboard or whatever, they ask me a question, I say, I can't answer that right now, make me an Asana task and I'll get back to you. So I know this has been a little bit sort of all over the place, and I hope that there was some cogency to the message I was trying to send here. I wanted to put up this just while we're answering questions. This is a QR code to the sort of tech resources for lawyers that I have put up and maintained. It is free. I don't even ask for your, I don't even like gate it for your email or anything. If you are a Clio user, or Jotform user, I've got some of our like intake forms and the engagement letters and things that are tied into our Asana through Zapier. And I've got a different Canva presentation here that goes through our entire, you can see it is 94 slides, goes through our entire tech stack, every app that we use. And this is where I've put together, some of it's about a year old now, but this is all of our tech stack, what license we have, how much we pay for it, what we use it for, what problem it solves, the things that we find annoying about it, all of that. I'm guessing that by sharing this pricing, I'm probably in breach of a few user agreements, but you know what? When you're sharing it with a group of lawyers, I'm a lot less worried. But if you want to know more about sort of where Asana fits into our entire tech stack, you are welcome to review these things and always reach out to me, and I'm happy to chat about that. So you can, yeah.
Thanks so much, Eli. This is incredible. I'm hitting that QR code right now. I wanted to open it up. I have some questions as well that I just wrote down, but I wanted to open it up to the group in case anyone wanted to ask a question.
All right. Does anyone?
I was just curious. What was sort of the decision process to go with Asana, and what else did you evaluate or consider before you made this commitment?
Yeah. Oh, that's a really, really good question. The deciding factor was how well it integrated with the rest of our system. So our entire system is linked through Zapier, like all of our different apps, Clio and everything is all connected through Zapier. So at that time in 2020, Asana had the most robust integration with Zapier. That was kind of the deciding factor. We looked at Monday, Airtable, I think there was one, and ClickUp. And we actually almost migrated to ClickUp to try to replace Clio for timekeeping, but that was the main deciding factor. But the reason that we haven't switched from Asana is mostly because of I find that the changes, the developers at Asana, they keep on making changes that I find make sense and make things better, which is not true for a lot of legal tech. They often make changes that make things worse. But yeah, that's I have kept an eye on like Monday and Airtable and those things, and I just find them not as user friendly, and just the UI doesn't look as nice to me. So that was our deciding factors. Does anyone here use Asana? Does anyone here use like a different platform? Like, I guess like that's something I maybe in hindsight should have started with. Like, what are people actually looking like? What brought you here today? Like, what are you curious about Asana? Maybe I can answer some specific questions.
I use ClickUp in my practice.
Okay. Do you do billing and stuff through ClickUp?
I don't do billing. I do that through a separate program, but my practice is a little bit different because I do fractional general counsel and fractional CFO. So the traditional law firm practice management didn't work well for me. So that's why I went with ClickUp, but it's basically the same as Asana.
Yeah, ClickUp. I think, yeah, that's the one that I've almost migrated to a few times. But I guess, so is this Kimberly?
Yeah.
Yeah. So are you using ClickUp? If you're fractional, or is it just for tracking your own tasks? Or are you collaborating with others in ClickUp?
So it's for the whole firm.
Okay.
So we do have multiple users in there. And I can also give access to like the workspaces for the individual clients. So they can add their tasks, and like if they have a new contract I need to review, they can add it into there.
Oh, interesting. Do they need their own ClickUp account
You can invite them as
as a guest?
a visitor or
Okay.
collaborator. So they end up with a account, but it's not like a full account.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, Asana does it does have, like, there's a guest view where you can sort of create like a public link that lets people just view. And then yeah, you can create, like, we have contractors and stuff. We don't share it with clients, but we have, you know, if we have like a marketing contractor come in, we'll invite them just to the marketing project and they can add stuff. And yeah, do your clients like you, like being part of the task management platform?
Yeah, I mean, because some of them don't use it, or not all of them use it. Some of them do. Some of them have like a separate way for us to keep track of all the tasks. But yeah, I mean, particularly if they already use something similar, you know, a lot of them use something like ClickUp or Asana, or Monday or something like that in their own businesses. So it's already very easy for them to, particularly if they already have a ClickUp, for them to, you know, add in their stuff.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, I hadn't considered adding clients to it. Yeah, I guess certainly if I found a client that used Asana, I'm like, no problem with that. No.
Yeah. And part of it may be my client base. I mean, they're businesses, right? Fractional general counsel. So they're already having their own project management systems too. That they're accustomed to this stuff.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. I guess that's the other thing. Like, a lot of my clients are, you know, buying a home, and really there's not really tasks for them to manage. We prepare the paperwork, they come into the office and sign. So yeah, no, that's interesting. Okay. Any other questions?
Eli, thanks for doing the presentation here. Definitely good detail. One of the things that I've been looking at with Asana for a while now, and just for kind of context, Stake, we're pretty much fully agile, run everything as much as possible off Airtable. But I've been evaluating Asana for a while, and I've kind of been wondering if it has kind of the capability to run Kanban for like individual tasks, and if there's a way to kind of see a global view of everything that you have due, like all the cards you have due. I know you mentioned in the presentation you don't like Kanban boards, but
sure. So I can show you one use of the Kanban board. So this is like, I have a sort of pricing app for my real estate conveyance services that I built out with a friend of mine. And so, yeah, this is the one Kanban board that we have. And so you can have, so, you know, this should look pretty familiar to sort of the sprint planning. This was set up by the developer. So you can have the sort of traditional, and like we didn't get into the custom fields, but this is very similar to sort of the Airtable, letting you categorize things based, like tagging data with multiple different custom fields, so that you can, and there are ways like you know, I can only get into so much searching and everything, but sorry, hold on. If I go to advanced search, you can really drill down on, you know, the types of tasks that you want to look at. And then once you do a custom search, you can save that search almost as its own project, so that you can always with like one button, search for just tasks that meet that specific parameter. And then, you know, there's in here, there's these things like rules that lets you route, you know, if there's a task that is added to this project, you can check if the due date is coming up, and then you can do these things. And there's there are like, if you have the enterprise plan, you can like do things like send a webhook or connect to Slack or Teams or whatever, all through. So you can really like, yeah, you can get deep in the weeds here, but you can run. And then like, if you can run the Kanban board, and then if somebody's like, you know what, I don't like your Kanban board, they can just flip it over to a different view. And then, yeah, and if I just want to see, the offshore, sorry, not the, like just the high priority stuff that's incomplete, right? I filter that out.
Mm-hmm.
I go, yeah. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Yeah, I can see, I'm starting to get like, I always take pity on people that have to sell software to lawyers, because it's like, I have a hard time articulating my own thoughts about software to other lawyers, and I use it like all day, every day. So, yeah.
This is awesome. This is super great to see, like, just behind the curtain, and practically, I honestly think this is better than having like a professional sales demo, because you get to hear from someone who uses it day in, day out for the exact reason that we would be using it. So I think this has been really great. I have, I guess, two questions. One is, did you hire a developer or consultant at any point to set up your version of Asana? Yeah.
We, about a few months into it, yeah, we hired, her name is, I'll show you, it's Peter Williams here. So we hired PETA to basically, I mean, to do a lot of sort of what I just told you, which was sort of explain what the difference is between like a team and a project and all of that stuff. I mean, some, like, originally we had, you know, one project called conveyancing, and then every client had a task, not a project. And so she helped us conceptualize it. I think that if we were like a 3-person team when we started with Asana, so we didn't really need the consultant for much other than to get the shell set up. But I would definitely recommend, on the Asana forum, there's a whole bunch of different consultants. I've interacted a lot with a guy named Bastian Siebman of I Do Clarity. So this guy. Oops. No. Siebman. God, I suck at typing. This guy. I would say that this gentleman is probably the most knowledgeable Asana user that I have ever met. I'm on his newsletter and all of that. Like, this is the guy that I would recommend for sure for a consultant. He's got a company. He actually has, his website has a whole bunch of like apps that you can use for Asana to solve problems that Asana has, some annoying problems, but definitely worth having a consultant look over things. But we only had it a few years ago, and then really, like, I just, we every quarter go through our Asana and try to like look at it and evaluate it and do that ourselves. But yeah, a consultant. One word of caution with consultants: a lot of them will insist that in order to engage their services, you buy your license through them, which kind of locks you into a forever relationship with them, because you have to renew your licenses through them. And then if you don't like it, don't like them, it can be a problem. So that's my only word of caution is try to buy your license from Asana and then go to a consultant and resist their insistence to take over, because yeah, I wouldn't do that, but yeah, that's it.
That's a good tip. One more quick hitter. So maybe it's not a quick hitter, so might be a larger topic, but I'm curious. I mean, you use Clio. I'm curious where Clio stops and Asana starts.
Yeah.
How much are you doing through Clio? You mentioned timekeeping. Yeah, I guess since a lot of the project management and like case management stuff is not happening in Clio, what is Clio there for, and where does it end and Asana start?
Sure. So we use Clio for billing and trust accounting primarily. So we don't use Clio for, like, we don't use the document, we don't use Clio Grow at all. We only use Clio Manage. We don't use it for calendar or documents or the to-do list or tasks or anything like that. So when we get a new client, we open their file, their matter in Clio, so that we can have a trust ledger and so that we can issue bills. And then, you know, a lot of stuff I do is flat fee, so I don't really have to time keep, but the litigators will start their timer in Clio and then go into their Asana, do the work, and then, you know, make a little notation in their timesheet in Clio. But really, we use Clio as essentially an accounting software. And then also it's our primary conflict check system. So, you know, we have all of the different related parties and opposing parties linked to the Clio matters so that we can do conflict checks like that, because Asana is not excellent at static data storage. It's meant for tasks. It's not meant to like catalog. It's not like Notion, right? Like Notion is more for storing data and like how-to guides and things. Asana, we have our how-to guide in Asana, and it's not the best way to store that kind of info, but it's easier to say like what we don't use Clio for, and that's we have 0 tasks, we have 0 documents, all of that stuff. So it's just accounting.
Okay, got it. No, that's helpful. Good to know, because I think as I think about just like we don't I just thinking about kind of like front end, back end of the law firm, and what we use certain tools for, and we don't have an Asana replacement right now, but looking into it. So just kind of seeing where the other tools would kind of stop and this one would start.
Yeah, Clio, I mean, it would be a lot easier for me to switch from Clio to another firm management software than it would be to switch from Asana to something else, because Clio is so closed off in terms of its API and everything that like there's very limited automations and everything you can do. It's all in its own little system. I would get like I haven't found anything that's compellingly better than Clio for running a firm, but I would leave it if I could, because it's their head office is like a 15-minute drive from my house, and it's not law society compliant in my jurisdiction. And that bugs me.
That's wild.
Like, how are you a unicorn in Vancouver and you're not Law Society of British Columbia compliant for the users?
Crazy.
Yeah.
Well, we're at the hour mark, but really appreciate you doing this. This is I mean, extremely helpful for me, I'm sure for everybody else. And I know, you know, you're just graciously giving your time and your knowledge, and as you've done before, putting your resources together for the world on your website. So if you don't mind, I'll actually share that as well, just with the community, and drop a recording of this in the Slack group. And if there's anything else you want to leave people with, go for it. Otherwise, thank you a million times. This is really great.
Yeah, no, that's great. I always learn something myself, get better clarity on my own reasons for doing things when I get to present like this. So yeah, thanks everyone, and have a good rest of your day.
Awesome. See you, Eli. Thank you.